Good afternoon. My name is Mike Baird. I am the Global Business Development Manager for Pharma and Life Sciences for Esko, which is a software company based in Belgium. So my topic today, as you can see on the screen, is how to align the physical and the digital. Okay. So, the world is changing. Access to the internet, access to mobility is changing the way that healthcare professionals and patients research their patient care. The information they find, whether that's online or holding the packaging, must be aligned. There's a proliferation of the internet and this mobility, which is driving patients to do their own research and their own, in some cases, self-diagnosis. There are multiple information sources available to patients, and it's crucial that there is a way of aligning the information source that they see online with the information source that they can hold in their hands when they're actually being prescribed the medication, or if they're buying it if it's an over-the-counter product. So the product information and the associated brand representation must be aligned. But this isn't just for the patients, for the consumers, for the healthcare professionals. This could be internally within your company, for example, for the QA department who is checking to ensure that the right patient information leaflet is inside the correct carton. So this alignment, although crucial, is also challenging to say the least. So we need to find a way of centralizing all brand assets to do with each SKU, starting with the packaging files, and publishing and communicating through all stakeholders for what we're calling a single source of the truth. This single source of the truth should encompass everything, that's specifications, regulatory documentation, copy and text, labels, marketing brochures, even through to videos and point of sale material, everything associated with that particular SKU. This method provides control of all the assets used and visibility, traceability, and management of how they are used and by whom throughout the full product life cycle and beyond. This controlled reuse certainly saves time and money whilst communicating accurately with healthcare professionals and patients, but also minimises your risk. So I'd like to just share a few statistics with you. So with patients and consumers directing their own treatment, frustration, confusion, and health risks can be created when the analog data, so the packaging, and the digital, that's the online information, is unavailable or incorrect. The patient's pathway to this information is more fragmented than it ever has been before because there are so many different channels. Digital's impact is greatest in the early stages of the purchasing pathway, when consumers are searching for options. So in terms of these statistics, 43% of patients have done research online and explored potential treatments before ever even speaking with a healthcare professional. 60% of patients with pre-existing conditions like to validate what their doctor is telling them, so getting their own second opinion with their own online research. Following a diagnosis, 85% of patients turned to search online to learn about their treatment options. And today, 20% of smartphone users search for health information on a smartphone whilst in the exam room during a medical appointment. So clearly you can see from all of that, there is a desire to gather the information online, but it must be accurate and it must be in absolute synchronicity with the physical or the packaging information. With some countries requiring that product information to be published online, it is only a matter of time before this becomes universal. Some more data. So we know that doctors are willing to engage in discussions with others via social media. They have their own social media site, for example. Pharma needs to be there with the right content at the right time. These groups are increasingly educating themselves, researching, keeping up to date, and accepting the information they find online. As Deloitte pointed out in October 2015, 65% of doctors are interested in engaging with pharma and their colleagues over social media for clinical data. And in the US, an estimated 72% of doctors are using social networks to connect and work together. Whatever the channel, wherever the information goes, its accuracy is dependent on a synchronized single source of truth, which provides a smooth, confusion-free, and safe experience for all types of end users. The information needs to be coordinated correctly through a well-designed process. In a report from O'Keefe in 2013, pharmaceutical companies lose an average potential of 15% of their annual revenue as a result of not offering a positive, consistent, and brand-relevant customer experience. That's a lot of potential profit, but more importantly, it's not just about the lost revenue, although significant, it's obviously about the risk. Pharma needs to approach engagement with the same approach and tools as CPG and retail customers do. There needs to be a change in mindset. According to McKinsey, this lost revenue can only be recaptured by providing a digital marketing and customer engagement experience similar to what is happening in these other companies outside of the pharma industry. So, for example, consumer product companies, whilst also maintaining that minimum risk. So we now know that inconsistency between the analog and the digital touch points can create healthcare professional disengagement and patient risk. So packaging remains at the core of this. Traditionally, the product packaging is at the core and is what people trust. That's the tangible object they hold in their hands. It's the leaflet they unfold. It's the information they consume when they're in the doctor's exam room or when they get home with the product. It's never easy to control everything, but the product development and sales process was established and it did work. Now, there are lots of new, great and exciting ways to connect with these patients and healthcare professionals, although the packaging still remains at the core. And these communication channels are often driven out of different departments within the business and on a timescale that is much faster than it ever has been before. Added to that, there are the struggles that pharmaceutical sales reps, for example, are having getting time with doctors just to explain the benefits of these drugs. There is just no time. So healthcare professionals, as well as patients, are turning to online sites, YouTube, blogs, social media sites, and much more to find this information out. So controlling both your message and the production information is more important than it ever has been. However, the traditional and new media production and distribution are disconnected, and the back-end infrastructure within most businesses is not unified. So utilization of these new communication technologies has developed organically, leading to businesses ending up with a siloed department and back-end infrastructure. This means that multi-channel communication is being managed, but not always accurately, efficiently, or effectively. This can inhibit accurate communication and can certainly compromise patient safety. Apologies, there we go. So here's a couple of examples of this communication, of the consequence of this miscommunication. So this is a regularly quoted statistic which appears in various different forms throughout the whole internet. Labeling errors represent over 50% of recalls in the pharma market. So this is why we are focusing on packaging as the physical, because while pursuing this multi-channel strategy is important, you need to start with packaging. The impact that packaging has is still phenomenal in the patient experience interacting with the drugs. It makes sense to solve the issue right at the source, where 50% of those recalls are caused. Using the system that can help manage the workflow to eliminate errors that are caused by human intervention, and integrated QC and QA tools that can automatically find errors and eliminate them is crucial. As a huge benefit, this also allows for centralization of the brand and labeling information that can then be systematically disseminated for successful healthcare professional and patient engagement. So packaging management and QA tools are vitally important within this industry to remove those errors. From a patient perspective, more importantly, without the accurate information between the physical and the digital, patients and lose confidence in the medical information provided and ultimately the company that provides it. As the quote states, patients shouldn't even have to think about it. Okay, so how do we move forward? And more importantly, how can we help as Esko with these problems? So we can help by integrating the online communication channels, or the digital and the traditional channels, such as the physical, the packaging, and the labeling. And as you can see, this is not just Esko that is promoting this. As recently as April of this year, in the Pharma 3D report, it's being stated that a single source of the truth should be on everyone's agenda, including the highly regulated industries. Okay, so to demonstrate in more detail, I've got some examples here of a typical product development and distribution process. So product development is chaotic, widely distributed geographically and departmentally. Work is often duplicated and information is not stored centrally. The current process can be well established but can be chaotic. The developmental flow from ideation to the final pharmacy shelf incorporates multiple systems, multiple departments, decisions and stakeholders, often located all over the world in different time zones. Without these systems and the underlying architecture to govern the product information and ease the process flow, things are lost and errors will be made. So starting with the pipeline. So you gather your ideas, you prioritize and you score them, and you choose which ones have the most promise. Then go on to concept development and agency submission. This is where things really start to get complicated. This diagram is probably a little too linear and simple. There are multiple paths as products are specified, designed and budgeted, and then receive regulatory approval. Then you move into asset and packaging development, where things can become even more disjointed. Packaging is created, advertising for print, TV and online is developed, legal and localization are brought into the mix. If these efforts are not centralized and managed, your employees are frustrated, the brand message is fragmented, and little sharing and learning can occur. So with all these different messages, we move into distribution, which ends up being somewhat delinked from the original great product idea. The TV ad probably has the right packaging, but does Amazon or the retailer website? How about Facebook or Sermo? With a manual process feeding this myriad of distribution and communication channels, it's a credit to everyone involved currently that things are as communicated as well as they are. So this is where the benefit of adopting an alignment strategy and solution comes in and becomes very clear. By adding workflow and finalized digital asset management, the labeling process feeds the entire digital engagement process. So the solution that we offer establishes firm workflows, approval cycles, and versioning for all communication media. All stakeholders work from a single source of the truth. In fact, we recommend that the single source of the truth starts from the point of submission to the regulatory bodies, so the data can be locked down and controlled before the packaging and labeling process even starts. The solution also can pull information right from the approved regulatory content, therefore minimizing copy and paste, errors, and minimizing risk ultimately. The central repository houses all the finalized assets and ensures that everybody, internally and externally, has an accurate, up-to-date set of information that is repurposed across projects, processes, campaigns, and distribution channels. You have full control of the assets, the brand messaging, and the SKU information. The organization gains benefits such as reduced complexity, increased productivity, and increased accuracy. And then finally, wrapping the whole thing up with analytics and reporting, the organization itself can learn and improve when the cycle begins again. So ultimately, the centralized repository unifies this brand information. And that repository feeds all of the channels. When the underlying architecture is in place, all the product information is centralized, brand information is unified. When the central repository is used to feed both the traditional and the new media channels, the brand message is unified and the communication is effective whilst the risk is still being managed. Okay. So talking about the solution in more detail now, what does it really incorporate? So it's a modular solution. It has 6 elements to it. And you can start with one piece and add on other elements and modules as they are needed. So we separate these into these key functional areas, such as specification, design, asset development, asset management, integration, and then analytics. So here I'll emphasize the importance of data coming directly from the approved regulatory content. So getting the specification and briefing correct at the very start is critical to speeding the overall process up and reducing the risk of the project failing. Today's teams are more diverse than ever. As we said, they're located all over the world in different time zones, and they need an easy-to-use and responsive system that allows them to work their own way, ideally with minimal system interaction. So the Esko tool is a responsive and mobile-enabled design to make this possible. Each project begins with a template, including drop-downs, minimizing the risk of starting off with the incorrect information right at the start. Additionally, all possible data that can be is gathered from your third-party systems. So whether that's SAP or any other ERP or PLM system, we can pull that into the system, and we can also push at the other end into systems such as Documentum for record keeping. Okay, focusing on design. So we advocate designing in 3D. This is how the product will be seen. This is how the physical representation of the digital becomes. It's a 3D thing. It's a tangible object that you hold in your hand. So when we're designing, we suggest and we emphasize this point that you design in 3D. You can use the software that you know, using the plugins that we provide, and it provides ultra-realistic, high visualized 3D wherever possible. So really speeding up the innovation process. What we don't want is to have people having to learn new software every time they want to do that. So the people that provide your design, whether that's internally or externally, can use the solutions that we provide in their own software environment as they currently do, without any retraining or additional learning required. So the campaigns become holistic across all the consumer touch points. Typically the design is not, but with the different departments or agencies for audiovisual, packaging, ads, social, etc., you need to have the technology that supports the results of the design process and ensures a consistent brand campaign across all media. In addition, as I mentioned before, crucially, you can also link your artwork directly to regulatory content, removing the risk of duplication or human error. And with that, we integrate with Global Vision's QC tools. Global Vision are a world leader in providing electronic digital proofreading solutions. They integrate into our system, which automatically checks across the process for artwork and spelling and text errors. It checks barcodes, it checks Braille, it checks everything in an end-to-end situation. Once the copy is pulled directly from the source material into the packaging and labeling, removing that risk of human error, the workflow supports content management, also allowing automatic updates to that copy, and automated Braille and barcode insertion and managed translation work streams, all of which are vitally important. Okay, moving into asset development. So you need a consistent approach to all of your marketing materials, and it's critical to align the analog touch points to the consumer, so that's mainly the packaging and the retail channels, with the increasing number of digital touch points, such as audio, video, web, mobile, e-tail, in one holistic process. So the unique domain experience that Esko has in both the packaging and the digital asset management industries allows us to connect these touch points and deliver a seamless integrated campaign and project management experience. In addition to that, asset development also means packaging management. So while managing your overall marketing asset development is important, packaging management should not be considered secondary. In fact, by incorporating the QC tools that I mentioned before, the workflow and the copy management in the packaging automation process, the risk is reduced and you receive full transparency and visibility of the entire process. Okay, into asset management. So, right first time is a very important phrase that we hear in the pharma world. The solution that we are discussing, the asset management capability within that is recognized as the reference for enterprise DAM. trusted by the large companies across the board, from brands to TV to movie production, even to the US military. It's a highly secure and highly configurable solution. So the solution lets you create one single source of the truth with the approved assets, whether they're files, text content, or metadata, and it gets securely distributed to only those who need it when they need it, thanks to rights management capability. And predictive sync means that the files can be sent to your desktop before you even know you need them, and pulled back from the desktop when you don't need them. So people can work in their favorite apps whilst keeping in sync with the overall process. Through into integration. So the solution can fully integrate, as I said before, with other business systems. So if the data has already been created elsewhere, you should be using it. Our enterprise hub technology means that you can integrate with these other systems easily, thanks to the configurable architecture of the solution. Whether the system is up or downstream from the packaging process, you can connect to it and pull in the regulatory and other lockdown content from your ERP system, your PLM system, or your document management system. This is obviously valuable for both the efficiency as well as error and risk reduction. You can pull regulatory content directly from source documents. The system excels at being the hub that aggregates the data from multiple other systems, which helps you to be more effective whilst keeping that risk fully reduced. And then finally, through to analytics. So using the reporting capabilities, or in our solution, or using reporting capabilities in your analytics and business intelligence solution, either is possible. And we always say what you can't measure, you can't manage. The integrated management reporting lets you see where your processes and systems are bringing value to the enterprise and where there is room for improvement. You can track actual project times, statuses, costings, and more with the analytical and management reporting options in the solution. And if you already have a clear analytics strategy, the data model allows you to integrate with our platform with ease. And then to ensure total quality throughout the process, as I said, we have the full suite of Global Vision's industry-leading digital proofreading systems embedded within our solution, which automatically checks everything is correct at every stage of the process from start to finish. Okay, so quickly to recap. So there are a number of benefits to this solution, as I have discussed. Time to market is important. It's important in the retail world, it's important in the CPG world. It's also important, as we know, in the pharma world. So you can improve time to market by using a solution such as this. You get increased productivity and visibility into the bottlenecks throughout the whole process. You can reduce risk and compliance issues. Solid integration into other systems and workflow supporting approval and stage gating allows you to capture feedback into a single place from both internal and external stakeholders. Aligning the digital and the physical, as in the title of the presentation. This is critical, and I've touched on this a number of points throughout the presentation. Aligning those two representations of your brand, strengthening that messaging and providing a significant improvement in the customer's engagement and experience with your business. And then finally, optimizing spend. Automating tasks, eliminating duplication of data, just becoming more efficient. On the flip side to this, what is the risk of inaction? So the risk of inaction is not insignificant. There is a proliferation of SKUs throughout everybody's businesses these days as we move into different markets with targeting different diagnostic areas. This is going to continue. This will only increase. Multiple data sources and manual entry will drive business misalignment. This can lead to a fracturing of the brand message, discontinuity throughout the business, and potentially impact on customer and patient safety, which is absolutely crucial to what we're talking about today. And then recalls. As we discussed, 50% of recalls are caused by human error or are packaging and labeling related. These, as we know, have significant impacts within your business environment. So the point we are making here is that mobile, so access to the internet anywhere, anytime, this is not a technology anymore. As far as we're concerned, this is a behavior. This is how people are. This is how people live their lives. People will continue to experience your brand on and offline. So by building this underlying architecture and unifying the brand communication, you're preparing yourself for future success. Okay, a few brief slides just to give you some background on Esko. So, as you can see, Esko is a global software company, nearly 1,800 associates worldwide, with solutions focused on food, bev, and importantly for here, life sciences and pharma. We have a global footprint and we can support the installation wherever and whenever you need the assistance. And we've got comprehensive training, consulting services to help drive user adoption and education. We fit into a larger vision from our parent company, Danaher, joining the rest of our family of companies in supporting organizations right from the point of strategy through production and onto the pharmacy shelf. And this strategic growth is continuing, and we will continue to expand the width and breadth of our solutions, helping to support our clients' success. Esko is a supplier to many of the top 100 pharma companies today, and our software is fully validatable and compliant according to the agency's CGMP requirements. And finally, if you have the time, we'd very much appreciate it if you could visit our booth, which is in this hall, located in 2R41, just down the other side there. And that is it. Thank you.